Catus Maximus here. So, Vevor sent me the Brushless Pro Series Contractors tool set a few weeks ago from their corporate. They do their promotions, or their influencer marketing is separated from their main website, corporate, and Amazon sales. So the corporate sent me the Big 5 tool set, and they wanted me to do an updated video. Or excuse me, 2 videos, one being an update, so this is going to be pretty quick. Amazon also sent me just the Pro Series drill and driver to have a promotion for their Amazon site, so that's how I ended up with 4 batteries. The easiest way to put it, it's about twice as much for the whole 5-piece toolkit than it is just for the drill and driver. The drill and driver come with, they're both 80-watt chargers, but you get the double bay with the bigger kit. They both only come with 2 batteries, and Vevor's trying to, well, they appear to be trying to stock more independent batteries and chargers and tool only. But I will have to say on these, as I've done so many times, is that Vevor switched to a DeWalt-esque type design, but it's actually not DeWalt compatible because it's still DeWalt used the balancing inside the charger. These are balanced inside the batteries, so they're actually not compatible with DeWalt at all. Nor is it compatible with their Makita type battery, a lot of all their other cordless tools. So that's always a takeaway. If you register on their corporate website, it's about $270 for the 5 tool set. We'll get this charger out of here because it's like, or before I do that, for what you see here, it's $270 if you register, and about half the price if you just get the Pro Series drill and driver, which comes with this charger and the 2 4-amp-hour batteries. Those are the only batteries they have for these tools, is the 4-amp-hour ones. And you kind of have to look, because sometimes the Amazon prices, they have a sale on Amazon, so you got to kind of watch that with Vevor. Otherwise, they're sticking with it, basically trying to be the more industrial and tool type side of AliExpress. I don't think they have any relation to AliExpress, but it seems that they're trying to bring it to America and trying to make a penny, because oftentimes they go out of stock, so they bring in like batches of items, and if they sell, then they'll bring in more batches. If they don't sell, then they don't. So they kind of do the thing where they bring in a little bit less than what they think they can sell, and then depending on how quickly they sell out, they judge popularity and will get more. Kind of an odd way of doing it. And the other big criticism is they send the international version of the circular saw. It uses a 30mm arbor, so when you get blades, you have to search for 30 by 190 or 30 by 185. It's rated as a 7.5-inch saw, or 190mm. This blade was $15. They didn't include a blade, and I did, even in the email, kind of rip them for not including a blade and forgetting to include a 5/8 United States compatible bushing on the backside of the blade. So it was $15 on the Amazon. This was the cheapest blade I could find. It is carbide tooth and 40 tooth, but surprisingly enough, it was $15. It was $2 more just to get the 190mm. So instead, this is basically a 7.25-inch blade, which is just fine, and it'll be just a slightly smaller diameter, makes almost no difference in everyday cuts. The saw will have a little bit more power just because it's not turning quite as big of a blade. So that's the other issue. Oh, and the fact that for some reason it's peach colored where everything else is orange. Anyway, as I mentioned before, the drill has a big long side handle that actually threads into the body. It's not too bad. It's an electronic clutch, and a lot of people don't realize or get confused. You put them, if you really want very low torque and an electronic clutch, you put it in second gear, since it's based on motor load. When you put it in high gear on a low torque setting, it cuts out at much lower values, just because it's more evenly, and that's kind of how they're designed to be used, is you basically have 18 torque settings in one. When you go to second gear, you have 18 lower torque settings with some crossover. Other than that, only time will tell. I've done teardowns on these. The drill's actually halfway decent with a sensored motor. The impact driver has a reasonable amount of power there. It's about the same amount of power as what the major brands, Makita, Milwaukee, DeWalt's had about 10 years ago on their premium ones. It's pretty short, and it has like 150 or 160 peak foot-pounds of torque. So all that's just fine. Both the chargers, just the one that comes with just the drill and impact set as well as the 5-piece set, both of these are 80 watt 1 hour fast chargers. This one just happens to share that 80 watt power supply across 2 bays. So it's a 2-hour charger if you're charging 2 empty batteries, but it's just kind of nice of having the ability to charge 2 at once, or have one halfway charged and toss it on, and it's a little less waiting around. The recip saw, somebody was posting on my last video that it's also the same one that WEN, or another really budget tool brand or name. It's been around for a long time. This is a pretty weak reciprocating saw. It is brushless, and it'll generally work for, you know, if you're remodeling your bathroom or something like that, tree trimming, branch pruning, cutting roots out of the ground, basic kind of cuts like that. If you start going heavy into it, it will stall out, but it generally has an okay amount of power, especially for the weight. The one thing you have to be really careful about, and I forgot to mention, it has a pretty thin or small diameter. That thing, maybe 8 or 10 millimeters. It's less than half the size of any, like, a Milwaukee Sawzall. It's so small that if you use this in more heavier duty cuts and the blade gets jammed, you'll want to be careful. If it's in an extended position like this and you just start wrenching around the tool, high likelihood that you're going to bend that shaft and then the whole thing will just jam up. And so that's the kind of one disappointment, is I wish the recip saw was just a bit heavier duty. On the plus side, it's a 20 watt work light. It'll suck down one of these batteries in like 3.5 hours. But it's one of the shining things. It has a boot on it. It actually has a glass lens, and being 20 watts on high, this thing is just no joke. To tell you the truth, it is a righteous light. And the Chinese really love their flashlights. I mean, there's just thousands of just extreme, all sorts of high performance flashlights, like a bunch of the 3-night ones I've reviewed. And this is no different. This is, out of all the things, this work light is, I mean, legitimate. It had a foot, like a curved foot, and it just wouldn't stay straight. Kept on, the bolts wanted to get loose for some reason on it, and it really was tippy. So I actually pulled that off, and I kind of like it better like this, because then I have it, I can have it pointed upwards. If I do it that way, I can have it more straight. If I do it that way, I can have it flat on its back. So that's just how I choose to do it. And it does have a cast aluminum body to help reduce, or to help dissipate some of the heat from this, so it doesn't get the battery so hot. So anyway, we're going to do a couple of demo stuff here. I'm using a more normal blade this time instead of that aggressive pruning Diablo blade. I mean, the recip saw works. And even though I complain about it being lighter duty, I will have to say it is light enough to use with one hand. There's a lot of situations, you know, irrigation, cutting PVC pipe, things like that, where one-handed actually is pretty, could be pretty useful. Blades that end up holding okay, but they're kind of, sometimes you gotta fidget with it, so you'll want to make sure you keep this lubed. Keep the little quick release thing lubed. We'll try this saw. I'm sure it'll work fine. Well, I mean, I know it works, but I will admit I was really complaining about the lightweight guard, but it does have a soft start, but it's not too bad. And a pretty decent brake, so by the time you set it down somewhere, I'm not so worried about it, like the guard getting so deflected that the blade cuts it, because the blade stops so quickly. Anyway, cut off the other piece of this here. Oh, I gotta stand up. Am I even in frame? Yes, I am, finally. so it did stall out a little bit there, but I was wise. This thing would be, if you put on the 7.5 inch or 190mm blade, it's going to be disappointing. I was wise to put on the 185, giving it a little bit of extra torque. Let's see if I can't use the blade notch to line up well enough. Well, not perfectly, but close enough. So the saw will generally make the cut. If you're doing full depth cuts like I was just doing there, then you're going to have to slow it down some and really try not to let it bind. You know, I'm used to warm drive skill saws having all the power, and never the blade will, flames will be shooting out from around the blade before it stops. But in this case, this has, I guess, say the right amount of power. If it really starts to bind in a deep cut, it will just shut off, and that's probably good for safety. It's a lightweight saw, so once again, there'll be situations, maybe you're cutting off the ends of rafters, and this would actually be pretty good for that, just because of the wieldability of it. It'll certainly cut, you know, plenty good if you're going through sheet goods and that type of stuff. If you're trying to go through hardwoods, you're just going to have to take it easier, you know, use a more powerful corded saw. Otherwise, you know, it's adequate. And at least you don't have to do something like pull out the battery to get it to reset. And the brake is okay. Do the obligatory 4-inch screw here. And those screws get hot just in one driving section. I mean, the impact driver works. I mean, it does have a nice dual ball bearing retention. Can't really see it right now, but it does have a pretty decent chuck on there. I'll have to say, I think basically it only hits its peak torque right on a real freshly charged battery. I mean, it's not like these weren't. They were right at the point of between 3 and 2 bars, so they still have quite a bit of charge. I think this probably drops down to maybe 120 foot-pounds of torque or something like that, 130. But it's still fine. It'll drive big 4-inch screws. But I don't think it would hammer in, you know, big timber lock screws like this. At least it'd get them relatively far, but the drill would probably drive them nearly as deep. It does have a pretty bright light. It does have power levels as well as like the sheet metal screw mode, and it is compact. And actually, I did just resharpen this bit since the last time, so it ought to run this 2-inch self-feed bit pretty darn easily now. Clear out some of those chips. There we go. Actually, ran that just fine. Oh, before I forget, it came with a socket head cap screw for the blade lock. As a matter of fact, this is it, and it was unbelievably short. You can literally see the dark spot there where it was basically engaging on 4 threads. And I was just so worried about that. The shaft is actually tapped really deep. So I put in a grade 10 bolt that was like twice as long, and it just has much better grip. So as you're replacing blades, you're not just working on 4 threads, eventually not just stripping the bolt, but stripping out the hole too. So for on the Vevor website for the $270, you know, it's okay with the 2 batteries. It just, what isn't okay is the fact that these batteries only work with these tools. They don't work with these Vevor tools. I should say brushless tools. Won't work with this Vevor brushless tool, which also uses a different type of battery than these. And that's probably the biggest disappointment, just that gross error and lack of foresight. Other than that, you know, they did try. All the tools have terminals, so they'll shut down if the battery overheats. Decent grade of cells in the batteries, all that. And realistically, the circular saw putting on that 185 blade, it actually was doing okay. I was probably pushing a little too fast. Plus, this is a very low grade blade. This isn't a Diablo. You can't get 30 millimeter by 185 in Diablo. Or maybe you can. I saw some Catus. They were like $50 for that blade. That's super frustrating, but you know, even with the cheap no-name $15 blade, you know, it'll do the cuts. You know, this is a tool set that can make you some money, but I would certainly try to hunt down like a used set on Facebook Marketplace of a name brand. This I would recommend if, you know, if you're managing some apartments, you know, you need just a general tool set for the maintenance guy. This would be more like that because you're likely to have been ordering other weird random stuff from Vevor. I do appreciate them sending it to me. And anyway, thanks for watching.